everyone, welcome to my classroom. My name is Miss Marchesano. I'm one of the junior high art teachers. Today I'm going to share with you a Christmas story that I grew up with and received from a friend probably about the same age that many of you are. It's called The Lost Present, A Christmas Story About Giving, and it's by Angela Holroyd and David Ansley. So let's go ahead and get into it. Beneath the floor at number 5 Mill Road lived a family of mice. Their home was called the Mouse Hole. It was 2 days before Christmas and they were very excited. All that is, except Tommy. They had heard from Uncle Joseph in the country, and he and Cousin Marmaduke were coming to stay for Christmas. "I don't know why you're all so happy," moaned Tommy. As they all sat around the table, Mother Mouse was reading out the letter that had arrived that morning. "It's fun to have family for Christmas," she beamed. "Not when you have to share your room with a great big oaf," said Tommy. "Marmaduke, what kind of name is that?" "Don't be so horrible," said Tilly, his sister. "Marmaduke is very kind." "He's also stupid," sneered Tommy. "Last time he came here, he didn't even know what a street lamp was. He was scared. Imagine being scared of a light." "He lives in the country," said Mother Mouse. "Everything is different in a city." "Well, I don't care. I don't want him here." Tommy stomped out the door. "Oh dear," said Mother Mouse. "I do hope they become friends. Go and talk to him, Tilly. I have so much to do." And she bustled off to the larder to check her hazelnut puddings, cheese pies, and blackberry tarts. Tilly found Tommy sulking in his bedroom. "Why don't you like Cousin Marmaduke, Tommy?" she asked. "Because he's a scaredy cat. Why, even the footsteps of the people upstairs made him shiver and quiver." "I think you're being very nasty. He had to get used to them, that's all. I bet you're scared of some things." "I am not. I'm not scared of anything," he said, and he puffed out his chest. "Good, I'm glad you're not," said his sister, "because I need you to help me bring Mother's Christmas present across the big hall," she whispered the last bit. The big hall was upstairs where the humans lived. Tilly had made her mother a quilt beneath the floor of the sewing room. All the needles, threads, and materials were kept in a big basket. At night, when everyone was asleep, Tilly had slipped into the room and borrowed scraps that no one else could use to make a quilt. Now it was finished. It would have to be taken to the mouse hole. "I would like to move it tonight," she said. Tommy shook his head. "You're not going to get me creeping around upstairs at night. What about the cat?" "But I must get it," said Tilly. "I really want to give Mother a nice present this Christmas." "I don't know why you're bothering. I'm only giving her a card," said Tommy. Tilly could not believe her ears. "You can't only give her that. That's not a good gift," she said. "It's good enough for me," Tommy said. "I don't know why you're making all of this fuss." Tilly felt sad. Poor Mother. "Well, I want to give her the quilt. I have made it specially for her. Please, please, Tommy, help me." "Oh, all right," Tommy agreed, just to keep Tilly quiet. Later that night, when all the humans were asleep, Tilly and Tommy crept out of the tiny hidden doorway behind the coat stand. They scurried across the shiny floor and under the sewing room door. Tilly found the quilt where she had hidden it under the floor. Quietly, they started to carry it back when Tommy heard a noise. He stopped and put his finger to his mouth. "Shush," he whispered. Tilly listened, but all she could hear was a clock ticking somewhere. She shook her head and beckoned Tommy on. They took a few more steps when, creak. "Oh, ah!" cried Tommy. What was that? They both pricked up their ears. Their whiskers stiffened. Before their eyes, the kitchen door opened and a large striped creature walked out. The cat. Tommy let go of the quilt and fled. Tilly scampered as fast as she could, dragging the quilt, but it was no good. The cat was right behind her. She dropped the quilt and ran under the coat stand. The cat picked up the quilt in its teeth. Poor Tilly. She watched as the cat dropped the quilt behind the back of the big chest of drawers at the side of the room. That will teach them, thought the cat as he went back into the kitchen to drink a saucer of milk. With 2 big tears rolling down her cheeks, Tilly scurried back to the mouse hole and into Tommy's room. He was pretending to be asleep so he didn't have to explain to his sister why he had run away. But Tilly knew he was awake. The bed covers were shaking. The next day was Christmas Eve. Everyone was busily decorating the mouse hole. Garlands and ornaments were hung over the doorways. Silver tinsel stars were hung from nails in the floorboard ceiling. It all looked very bright and cheery, but Tilly was still very upset. How could she get her mother's present from behind the chest of drawers? Tommy would not even talk about it. All he said was, "I was stupid enough to go with you last night. You're not going to get me to go again. That cat is very dangerous." Later that afternoon, Uncle Joseph and Cousin Marmaduke arrived. Cousin Marmaduke was wearing his country clothes, a warm woolen jacket and enormous boots. "Just look at him," Tommy laughed. "Shush," said Tilly, "you will hurt his feelings." "Tea time, everybody," called Mother Mouse. "Come and sit down." It was a delicious tea. Cheese pastries, blackberry tart, rosehip jelly, and raspberry juice. Mrs. Mouse had been storing food since summer. "That was scrummy," said Marmaduke. "Thank you." Mrs. Mouse blushed with pride. Tommy only giggled. "Scrummy, what a stupid word," he snickered to himself. "Why don't you take Cousin Marmaduke for a walk?" said Father Mouse crossly. "I can't," said the naughty Tommy. "I've got something important to do," and he rushed out of the room. Poor Mrs. Mouse. She was so ashamed of her son. "I'll take him to the garden, if you like," said Tilly. The pair scampered off, leaving the grown-up mice behind. Sitting under a hawthorn bush, Tilly told Cousin Marmaduke about the lost Christmas present. "I so wanted to give Mother a beautiful present this year," said Tilly. "Christmas is such a special time. It's a time when you can say thank you to someone for all the good things they have done for you. I won't feel right if I haven't got a special present." Cousin Marmaduke nodded. He had brought presents for everyone, including his cousin Tommy. "I could try to get it for you," said Cousin Marmaduke shyly. "But what about the cat? He will smell us," said Tilly. "Not if we fill our pockets with lavender." "Mother has some lavender," cried Tilly. "Oh, you are clever." Marmaduke's face turned red. Later that night, the pair sneaked out the door behind the coat stand. Each of their pockets was filled with lavender. Marmaduke carried a small blue bag. As quietly as they could, they scurried across the hall. Silently, they tried to climb the chest of drawers, but it was so highly polished, they kept slipping. "I thought this might come in useful," said Cousin Marmaduke. Out of his blue bag, he took a piece of rope and made a loop at one end. He swung it around in the air and then up, up, up. The loop landed around a carved piece of wood at the very top of the chest. Cousin Marmaduke held the bottom of the rope for Tilly to climb. When it came to his turn, Tilly was surprised at how quickly he managed to scramble up. Once at the top, Cousin Marmaduke took 3 sticks out of his bag and fit them together. He had made up the fishing rod he'd borrowed from Tommy. He dropped the hook and line behind the chest of drawers and started fishing. I've got something, he cried excitedly. A few minutes later, he pulled and pulled. The rod bent. It's heavy, he panted. Here it is. Oh, on the end of the hook was someone's scarf. Just then, the kitchen door creaked. Both mice hid in the shadows. They kept very, very still. Out of the kitchen came the cat. His large yellow eyes glowed in the dark. He stretched and yawned. Tilly and Cousin Marmaduke saw his long white fangs, and their fur stood on end. The cat twitched his whiskers. He was sure he had heard squeaks. Where had they come from? He turned his head and twitched his nose. He seemed to be looking straight at them. What was that strong smell? It did not smell of mice. Tilly and Cousin Marmaduke held on to each other in fright. The cat walked up and down the hall slowly. Then he sat at the foot of the chest of drawers and slowly licked one paw. Tilly and Cousin Marmaduke held their breath. The cat seemed to stay there for ages. Tilly was beginning to feel that she could stay still no longer when the cat stretched and padded quietly back into the kitchen. The lavender had worked. Cousin Marmaduke let out a long breath. Phew! Then he lowered his fishing line again. It hooked onto something else. Slowly, he lifted the rod up. Yes, there it was, Tilly's quilt. Very, very quietly, the pair scrambled down the rope, holding the quilt in their teeth. Before they knew it, they were safely back in the mouse hole. Tilly rushed into Tommy's room. She shook him awake. Look, look! Cousin Marmaduke is so clever. He has gotten the quilt back. Tommy slowly opened his eyes. He looked at Tilly and Cousin Marmaduke and turned over. So what, was all he said. Tilly pointed to the bed that her mother had made up for Marmaduke. Forget him, she whispered. Go to bed. I will see you in the morning. And thank you. Thank you very much. The next morning, Tilly felt so happy giving her mother the quilt. She told her the whole story about the cat and Cousin Marmaduke's clever ideas. Everyone cheered and clapped their hands. Everyone, that is, except Tommy. He was feeling left out. His mother thanked him for the card that he had given her, but he knew that it was a rotten present, really. He began to wish he had gotten nice presents for everyone. He had been horrible to his cousin and to Tilly, and Tilly was much kinder than he. Tommy felt very, very ashamed. All morning, he was quiet, thinking about how he can make up for his nastiness. It was only after lunch that he suddenly had a good idea. Why don't you all go and play games in the other room, and I will do all the cleaning up, he suddenly said. Everyone stopped talking. Well, go on, he said. Then I will take Cousin Marmaduke to meet my friends. Mother Mouse and Tilly looked at each other. They felt very happy. It was going to be the most wonderful Christmas. The end. I hope you enjoyed this story, and I hope that you all have a wonderful holiday. Merry Christmas.